Hey everybody, this is Randall from Flomaton Famous. As part of our orchard establishment, we're going to have one row that we're going to have all of our vining stuff on so far. That's the plan. We've got grapes on this end and we have hardy kiwi on that end. And our plants are getting a little taller, so it's time to go ahead and prioritize building out a trellis system. The trellis system we're going to go with is a 4x4 post with a 4-foot wide cross arm, and we're going to put it about 6 foot tall, and we're running it about 120 feet down this row here. Every 20 feet we're going to be putting in a post. Let's talk about some of the plants that we have in our orchard as we're walking down. This is a tom cord. Tom cord is a cross between a Thompson seedless grape and a Concord grape. And the grapes are absolutely wonderful, and it does very well here in the deep south. I just got that plant last year, put it in the ground, and it even had grapes on it. So I got to sample that fruit. 20 feet up, another post. We have a Southern Home muscadine, and we got a lot of crazy vines that are coming off of that. So we're going to have to air layer off some of those, trim that to a central leader, and everything that we're going to be putting on this trellis system, we're training to a central leader up to 6 foot to where our cross arm is, and we're going to have two lines going down each side. The same exact one that we got on our previous trellis. If you've ever watched any of our old episodes where we talked about our grapes over there, you may have seen that. We're going to emulate what we got over there, over here. The only difference is we're going to raise it up to 6 foot so that we can kind of walk under it and manage the vines at eye level. All right, so next to this grape here, this muscadine, we're going to be putting another post at 20 foot. We're skipping over this whole area right here. We could potentially put another grapevine right here, or we can just let that grapevine come down 10 feet this way, this grapevine come down 10 feet this way. That's the plan. That's the reason we have that spaced out so far. This one is a Ruby Crisp muscadine, and this is supposed to be the latest and greatest. A nice little red muscadine, and actually it's loaded down with flowers this year, so we may get a lot of fruit off of this. Putting a post next to that guy. So right here at this post is where we're going to stop the idea of just the 2 wires for the grapes. Coming this way off of that arm, we're going to put 5 wires. Kiwi like a stronger arch system because the habit of how they spread. We're going to train this one up to a central leader, up to 6 foot, and we're going to train the central leader down the middle, and then the vines are going to spread over the entire 4 foot, covering all 5 wires. But right here we have a Ken's red hardy kiwi. They say it's hardy, but it died back to the ground over the winter. All my kiwis died back to the ground. And maybe it was just because they were so young, but this year we're putting them on irrigation. We're training them up. We're taking good care of them. We're going to get all these things mulched down really good with a nice ground cover, and I hope to really get them well established this year. Maybe next year we can get some fruit. We'll see. This little kiwi right here, that's an Anna. Now I bought this one at my local Navy Exchange down where I work at Pensacola, but this is a Monrovia. So it is sold with 2 vines in here, a male and a female, and it happens to be that the female is a self-fertile variety anyway. It fruited this year. I don't think that the fruit held on. They may have already aborted and dropped off, but that's really encouraging that we just put this in the ground 2 months ago and we are already getting fruit trying to set on it. So I still need to identify which one's the male, but we're going to train that one male up and let this guy run all the way to that end, and all the way this end and try to keep him trained to a central leader. We had a Kiwi that die out last summer, but we're going to replace a Kiwi there. I don't know which variety. I got some things in mind, so when we make that decision, that's where that Kiwi is going to go. And then I got a dog over here chewing on this Kiwi vine. Now this one I got from Edible Landscaping when we went up to Virginia for the Homesteaders event. And I don't see the tag. First time on video, he's wanting to show off. But I think that's a numbers system. I don't want to say what it is, but anyway, that is where we're going to terminate right here, because behind me is where the figs pick up. But this is where we're going to make our orchard trellis system. And let's go ahead and get the auger fired up, and let's start drilling some post holes and start getting ready to put poles in the concrete. Come on, Kiki. Come on. Get up here. Turn around, sit down. All right, now that we got all of our holes dug, I went in the shop and I took these 4x4 posts, and some of these are from our old chicken coop yard. I pulled them out of the ground and I decided to reuse them. They'd only been in the ground about 6 years. They're still in really good shape. So I bought some new posts and I made T-posts. I bought 8-foot T-posts, cut them in half so These arms are 4 foot wide. Everywhere I look, when I look up Kiwi trellis, people are using 5 foot wide up here, but the extra 6 inches off of each end versus the price difference between an 8 foot long post and a 10 foot long post, I decided to go with an 8 foot post. We're going to stand these up and start getting these concreted in, leveled off. We're going to come back and we're going to put the bolts in, and we'll start getting these things set. Not exactly straight, but it'll be all right. Okay, a couple things real quick. Whenever I built these, I built them in my shop, and I didn't show me doing the dado here. These 4x4, I cut half the width out on the post and then half the width out on the arm, and then put the two together to kind of give it one flat union, and it keeps it from going all wonky. The end post that I have here, I've set at an angle down in the hole. The reason for that is if you have a post like this and then over the course of 10 years with the weight under it, it starts leaning in like this, it looks kind of bad. But if I go ahead and I start my post like this, and then off of this, all my wires will come down to my ground anchor. So I don't know what's doing more work here, my ground anchor that's kind of keeping it all tight, or these posts that are just kind of helps keeping it tight, or it's just the whole construction, all the same thing that's doing all the work and keeping everything tight. But this is the way I chose to do it. I've seen several vineyards do their end post this way, and I'm going to chose to do this. Go ahead and get these slanted in the ground. I've got a string on top. I went through and I set all my posts to where they all pretty well line up. All my vines were planted according to me pulling a string, and so my posts shouldn't be very far off of that, since my posts are pretty close to each vine. Okay, we got our post concreted in. The end one is on a slant, like I explained earlier. I went ahead and I measured in 2 inches, and I drilled a hole right through the end of the 4x4s. I've already got one string of wire kind of hanging up and over. I've not run it through the poles yet, but I've got the spool sitting right down beside me. One of the things that I did, one of the things I decided on to do was to buy a ground tie, like you would put a mobile home anchored to the ground. We're going to put these at the end of our trellis. We've got a 1/2-inch bolt, or I think it's a 5/8 bolt that goes through that. We're going to put our wire around that bolt, and I've got a fence tensioner like you would put the end of a fence together with, and you'll see all this in a minute. And then we're going to use the fence tensioner to tighten these wires down with. First, I'm going to go ahead and put this one in the ground. Luckily, it's been raining over the last couple of days, and these go in pretty easy. But once they're in, they're good for several thousand pounds of pull. So let's go ahead and get this started. I've got a long metal pole right here that I'm going to use to turn this into the ground with. While I'm at it, I'd like to introduce Gaia, the newest member to the farm. She is in fact the main character of this film. All right, bolt cutters to cut the wire with. Fence strainer from Tractor Supply, and a 5/8 bolt to go through the tie down, and 2 wrenches to tighten the bolt. All right, now we're just going to take the end of our wire and put it through the tensioner. You see there's a little thing that goes up on. Not yet. We've got to put it all through the holes before we put our tensioner on. Almost messed that up. What a pain in the neck that was. At least it didn't get all kinked up and bird nested. All right, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a piece of this wire and attach it to this, and the other end's gonna attach to the bolt on the ground anchor. I think I'm gonna loop it through there twice. Okay, worked pretty hard on that. I'm happy with the tension that we're at right now. The good thing is, I can always go back and tighten this up a little bit more. I'm not sure that I'm 100% sold on this whole idea right here. I've seen this done in other places. People train their grapes up on fence, and the fences are tightened with this kind of setup. So I guess we'll see. We'll go ahead and finish out doing the other side, and then we'll go ahead and start getting our grapes up on the wire. All right, we got our double wires up, one on each end. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna bring our grapevines up. We're gonna we'll select 2 branches and train them along those outside wires. Now right here is the demarcation point where I'm gonna stop growing grapes and I'm gonna start growing my kiwi. So I've selected this post, even though I've got a grape right here. This is where I'm gonna transition this side to kiwi, and then we'll run these grapes up and we're gonna run the grapes that way. So in order to brace, because for kiwi, we're gonna put 5 wires, a center wire, and then 2 outside wires, evenly spaced, approximately 11 inches apart. So I got to reinforce the kiwi section because there's gonna be a lot of weight, and I'm gonna be pulling 3 extra wires that I'm not pulling on the grape arbor side of it. So I went ahead and I put a ground tie in the bottom down there, and I'm going to run a central leader right through the middle of the post, and I'm going to pull it on here, and I'm going to pull 2 wires, one down through the ground tie and then back down the other outside hole, and we're going to ratchet those 2 down on that end, and the center wire is going to get ratcheted down in the middle like I previously stated. All right guys, we've got our trellis built. We've got some of our grapevines started to select which runners we're going to pull up. I just selected the runner that I like the best. All the rest of these runners are going to get air layered off. This is going to be trimmed down to just one runner up and then branch and go over here, and then the vines will spread out that way. That's the concept. This trellis, being that it's arched that way with the anchor and kind of pulling down, really doesn't pull a lot on this post itself. So I like this design. I like the anchor, and I like this. There's nothing wrong with that. There's one thing that I want to bring and show you guys that I don't like. This is all about the successes and the failures. So I'm going to show you when we get down to the other end what I don't like about this setup. All right, so on the end of this, where our grapevines are, we've got 2 wires. Let's go on down to where the kiwis are and talk about that setup. All right, this is where we pick up and do kiwis from this way forward. I had already planted my vines out. This is just because my posts are every 20 feet. This is where this post landed. This is where I decided to break off and do 5 wires for the kiwi trellis. We're going to grow this grapevine up and run it that way and keep it off of the kiwi trellis down there. I have a fence tensioner here, and that pulls on this this number 4 wire, and it ties into the ground stake down there. We're getting close to showing you what we don't like about this setup, and you can kind of get a little visual of it going on here. Let's go on down and talk about it. All right, guys, this is the area that I want to show you that I am not happy with. I wouldn't do this again. And with this caveat, I don't mind the fence tensioners. I'm just leery to how long these are going to last. I mean, it is steel, it's galvanized. It should last for a good long time. Only time will tell. The part that I don't like is how I tied it in. Because this is steel wire, it doesn't bend very easy, and I had to use long pliers and vice grips to be able to get a hold of this wire and really work to create bends and loops and tie this stuff up. And I ended up with this big bird's nest down here that's very unsightly, and this is what I'm not happy with. If I had to do over again, I probably would have done something different to connect the fence tensioner to the ground ties. Is it effective? Yeah, it'll work. Some of these are doubled up, so if I could put a lot of tension on this, I don't think this is going to be a break point because I have 2 strands of wire going through there. Now this one's just 1, so not so much, but everything else is doubled up. So all in all, I'm pleased with the setup. Thumbs down on what I did here, this design, and so hopefully you pick up something out of this that is valuable to you. And maybe you do try this. Maybe you just modify what I've got going on here a little bit different. Maybe it works better for you. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, and I brought maybe some valuable information to you. And share it out on your social media if you really enjoyed the video. Remember, keep growing, keep building, and always keep adventuring. Together, we're Flomaton Famous. We'll see you on the next one.